Okay, it did work.
Yay!
All
Awesome.
right. So yeah, apparently there was one extra button we had to click to actually go live. Okay, so let's make sure. Let's see. Can everyone hear and see us now? I'm just gonna pop that into the chat.
Yay.
I believe, you know what, let me look at my thing. I feel like when we were just chatting, that might have been on there too. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So. I think we are good. Okay, so Adrienne, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Everyone's saying there you are. Perfect. Okay. All right, everyone. Thank you for working through these tech issues. YouTube is so confusing. I'll just say that. Anyway, I have with me Adrienne here. We're so excited to talk about storytelling. If you have any questions also along the way, definitely ask them in the chat. I'm going to be reformatting this video to be on the podcast, which is something I usually don't do, but I'm excited to do this and get insights from other people and get questions from everyone else. So, Adrienne is basically, when I think of somebody who is a storyteller, I mean, I know a lot of travel bloggers, a lot of people are writers, a lot of people are great writers, but Adrienne is truly like knows how to tell a story. Not only does she have an amazing podcast, but she tells live stories in New York City. But anyway, I'm going to let her tell you now more about herself, and then we will hop into the interview.
Yeah. Hi, guys. I'm so excited to be here. So I'm a storyteller of multiple mediums. I write for the written word, I podcast, and then I also do live storytelling. So basically, I take true stories from my life, typically focused around travel, but not always. And I am able to reformat them into different mediums. And all three of those, I think, is a really wonderful way to have a holistic understanding of storytelling and then also figure out how to adjust your voice based on the medium that you are going to tell it in. Because the way that I would tell the same story in a blog post versus a narrative podcast episode versus a live storytelling event is completely different. But I love all three. Like they're like my children. It's like I can't choose which one I love more. I love them all for very different reasons. So yeah, so like Jesse said, I really started getting into storytelling with a podcast. I have it's called Strangers Abroad, and I interview strangers that I meet while I'm traveling. And then I kind of sandwich each episode with a personal story of my own as to where I'm at, what am I experiencing. And yeah, I'm currently working on the second season of my podcast, and the format is a little bit different, but it's very, very storytelling based. And then I do live storytelling in New York City as well. And that's when I get up on stage and tell my stories in front of a live audience, which is a thrill like no other. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Amazing. So just to kick this off, maybe let's start with you letting us know, what is a story? Like I feel like storytelling and stories, it's a concept or a word people hear a lot, but maybe they don't even know exactly what that is.
Totally. It's really interesting because storytelling is fundamentally what makes us human. And yet so many people don't know how to do it. However, when we hear it, we're like so addicted to it. That's why the movie industry, the book industry, podcasting, like all of these storytelling platforms are massive because we are so addictive to this thing that humans have created on our own, basically. It's really what separates us from animals is our ability to tell stories. So what a story it is a series of events where the stakes are raised, there's a climactic point, and then a moment of change after it's all happened. So there's like a few different storytelling structures that like different writers or teachers follow. I would say the most common one is called the hero's journey. And that's when there is an individual who starts off in their regular world. And then there's a call to action, like something has to happen. They need something. They need to rescue someone. They need to go find a thing. And on that journey up to finding that, that brings us to the climax. And then at the end, they return back to their world, but changed. I have a lot of feelings on like does the protagonist have to be changed kind of a thing, but that's like the minutia. But that's generally the storytelling arc. So what a story is, it's not a list. It's not just a series of events. Like I went to the store, I couldn't find sauerkraut, so I came back home. It's a series of events with feelings in it. So it's like, I went to the store, I had this insane craving for sauerkraut because I was missing my grandfather. And like, I just wanted to taste a little bit of nostalgia. And then I got to the grocery store and I was crestfallen because I couldn't find any sauerkraut anywhere. And I was just like, that's all I really wanted. So I came back home and, you know, like maybe I journaled or like wrote a song after my grandfather instead. I don't know. I just made that up. But like a story is a series of events with feelings embedded in it. And there's a moment of change at the end.
That's funny you mentioned the hero's journey just because, so I have a life coaching certification and that was a really big like lesson, I guess I'd say, in that certification process was learning the hero's journey and kind of taking your client through the hero's journey.
Yeah,
so totally. I didn't even think of that as like a storytelling principle as well. Yeah. And then you said something about, you know, having mixed feelings on if the protagonist should be changed. Do you kind of feel like that doesn't necessarily need to be something that happens for a story to take place?
No, not I've argued with a fair amount of storytellers with this. I don't necessarily think, I think that there are some stories that we tell where you get to the end and you don't necessarily feel different. But what I think is interesting is if you don't feel different and analyzing why you don't think that you are different. Because I think that at the end of the day, there is ultimate change. And it's not every story has this like, I'm a completely different person, like Phoenix out of the ashes kind of transformation. But like the person I woke up today is very different than the person I am going to sleep as, because I've shed skin cells and grown new ones, and I've had new conversations and read different things. Like it's more about analyzing the little changes, which are much harder to see. So yeah. So I don't know. I think that as long as the person, I'm more interested in, oh, you think you didn't change? That's interesting. Why? You know, because I think it's hard for us to see our own evolution sometimes.
Yeah, no, I agree with you so much, like the way you put that. Because there's a lot of things I'm even thinking about my travels, like things that I think would make an interesting story. I certainly felt things, I think interesting things happened, but it's not necessarily that I changed after, but maybe I learned something or probably I learned something, I guess would be the thing, which maybe I guess changes me in some way, but it's not like, something extremely profound. Like I'm now a completely different person with new perceptions or something.
Right. I mean, like a change, learning something, like what is the moral to the story kind of a thing. That's what the resolution always is. And I think that some people really conflate, this is on, you know, like a story doesn't have to be this insane time that I hitchhiked from Irve del Agua in Oaxaca back to Oaxaca City with my ex-boyfriend. And we were, you know, it doesn't have to be this like insane story. It can literally be about eating like salmon.
I love the examples.
Like that could be, if a good storyteller can make eating salmon sound like the most amazing thing, and someone who hasn't really honed the storytelling techniques could make a hitchhiking story sound extremely boring, you know?
Yeah. I wonder, like, because so for photography, an exercise that I learned as I was learning photography was take something really mundane and photograph it 10 times, then 20 times, then 30 times.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that would be, I mean, it sounds like it could be a good storytelling exercise, like make a story about what you ate for dinner and make it really
Totally.
interesting.
Totally. And I mean, like, there's so many, I focus on more memoir writing, but I read a lot of fiction books because I think that the way that fiction is written can be manipulated into memoir as well, because memoir is not necessarily fact. It's based off of memory, which can be mutated. You know, it can be forgotten, changed, rewritten. So it's malleable. That's what I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of writing prompts that I use that are designed for fiction that you can absolutely use for storytelling. So like write the story, but from the perspective of your cup, you know, like that kind of stuff.
I love that.
So yeah. So I think it's totally the same thing I think that photography thing's really interesting. Yeah.
Just like really quick, you were talking about writing prompts. Like I'm always looking for writing prompts. I belong to a bunch of meetup groups that send writing prompts.
Right.
Where do you find writing prompts, or do you sort of make up your own?
I sometimes kind of make up my own. One book that I found really helpful is called The 3 a.m. Epiphany. And it's all about this feeling. And my partner and I, he's also a storyteller. We talk about this all the time, on how at night there is this like magic creativity that kind of comes bubbling up to the surface. And so the 3 a.m. Epiphany kind of touches upon that and then gives a ton of writing prompts.
3 a.m.? 3 a.m.?
Yeah. So there's something about, what did you think I said?
I was just like, we were kind of talking about this the other day, and I was thinking, like, oh yeah, evening creativity, but then I realized you said 3 a.m. when.
Yeah. Late night.
I was thinking like 8 p.m.
No. Well, I think that it's more like, I think the title is sourced more from, you know, there's some writers that have been known to like wake up and just like need to start writing. But
That's happened to me. Yep.
I definitely, it's like creativity is a wild wind, and there is no way of it's really hard to domesticate her. But I've definitely found that just when it comes to like that time, that I find that my best writing is when I'm just a little sleepy, like a little underslept. Maybe I'm taking I'm getting on a 6 a.m. flight somewhere, and I'm sitting on the subway, and there's something about just like not being totally there that allows my brain to just relax and like make different connections that I wouldn't normally.
Maybe it's like also like a little less judgment, like you're sort of like looser, I guess you would say. So you're not like, oh, this is bad or this is weird. You're just like a little delusional. Because I sometimes write myself notes that I'm like, I wake up and I'm like, wow, what did I even mean? But at the moment I remember feeling like this was like a great idea that I couldn't forget.
Exactly. No, I think that we've all felt that. So the writing prompts that I kind of lean on are definitely I really like that book, The 3 a.m. Epiphany. But then, I mean, doing storytelling events, a lot of storytelling shows are based around a theme. So it's like, okay, the theme is ghosts, you know, like, okay, now I have to write and it doesn't have to be like, oh my God, I see a woman standing in my kitchen and she's not supposed to be there, you know, she's translucent. It could be like being ghosted, or, you know, like
interpret that.
Yeah, you can interpret it however you want. So just writing based around a theme is really interesting. And again, because writing for the page and a podcast and the stage are so different, such different voices, that is always making you think of the same story from a different lens. You know, with audio, I can manipulate. With audio, I think that I can get the audience more into my thoughts and feelings in a way that I can't do on the stage. And I can use soundscape or music to really like emphasize that. Whereas with the page, like it's only words. And I have to be able to convey that same like powerful like emotion or message with just how I'm typing, you know? So each one definitely brings its own, they're all a prompt in their own way.
Yeah, kind of I guess, assets you can use, like
Yeah.
photos in a blog post, soundscape and audio, or
Yeah.
like your whole body, I guess, on stage.
Yeah. Oh my God. I use my body so much on stage. I like take up the whole.
That's good though. That's good.
Take
I
up the
feel
whole
like
thing. Yeah.
I feel like that's engaging.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if someone's writing a story, how can they tell if it's actually a good story?
Ooh, that's a great question. I mean, again, going back to I think that anybody can make salmon, a good storyteller can make eating salmon interesting. So it doesn't necessarily depend on what it's about. It's all on how you tell it. And I find that the way to convey like a really great story, and it does have to have that structure. Like before I get into anything else, it does need to have that introduction, rising action, climax, falling action, and then like some type of resolution. That's a story. If you say just a sentence about like, oh, the one time my grandma Danko made a meal so terrible she buried it in the backyard, like that's funny and it's cute, but it's not a story.
Mm-hmm.
Me telling that story about my great grandma Danko would me be like saying each of the moments of her like getting to the backyard, but injecting it with feeling the entire time. Because what storytelling is basically doing is it's a form of telepathy. Like I will never know what is going on in your head, Jesse. But by you telling me a story and you telling me what you were thinking and what you were feeling is the closest that I'm going to get. And I totally respect privacy, so I don't want telepathy anyways. So, so good storytelling tells us how you feel and it tells us what you're thinking each step of the way. So again, it could be a hitchhiking story or about eating salmon. If you don't tell us how you're feeling, why do I care?
Yeah. I like that that one-liner. Storytelling is the closest we'll come to telepathy, or something like that. You just said. I feel like that's a very that's like a pull quote. That's a good
Yeah.
I like that.
We'll make a pin out of it.
Yeah, exactly. So you kind of touched on how to construct a story. Well, you did quite a bit. Do you feel like you have anything else to add to that kind of idea of constructing the story?
I would say that this most powerful tool that you can use with storytelling is vulnerability and just being as honest about your feelings as possible. Because when we're vulnerable and we're honest about what we're really feeling, it gives other people permission to feel the things that they're feeling. Because we don't always feel good things and they're really scary. But I think that storytelling is a way for you to take control of it and be like, yeah, I feel these feelings, but they don't own me. I am not all of the emotional baggage that I carry around every single day. So the more vulnerable you are, the better, because you never want to adjust how you were thinking and feeling basing it on what you want others to think about you. Like I kind of like the stories where I'm not the hero, where I'm messing up over and over again and I'm being kind of a jerk, because that kind of makes other people feel better about their own experiences. Cause like, oh, I've done that too, but obviously like if I'm telling this, I'm just like, there was one time I was just like the worst airport attendee. Like I wore every single layer of clothing and I like overpacked my bag and I was super late and I like held up the plane. Like I am not the hero of that story, but as long as I can be honest about my feelings and that I wasn't the best, but still kind of like show compassion for myself and say like maybe how I just kind of like acknowledging it allows, I don't know, it allows me to kind of like be in control of it and allow others to feel very comfortable around me and feel very connected to that type of story.
Yeah.
You never augment your thoughts and your feelings. Tell the truth. We're so starved for the truth. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. I'm thinking of Instagram right now. Like there was that whole wave of like very, I would say, inauthentic content that was super popular, but like also people didn't like it at the same time.
Yeah.
And now I feel like there's this huge push towards authenticity, and like I love
Yeah.
seeing that. And I feel like most people are like, like people
Oh
are
my
being
God.
themselves more.
Absolutely. Like when I follow a lot of, I noticed, this is like a tangent, but on that topic, when I would go on Pinterest and Instagram and just see like all of these like stick thin, like beautiful, like perfectly posed girls, it really messed with my head. And when I started seeing girls who showed off their stretch marks and, like being curvy and in a bra and like owning it, I was like, yes, like this is all I want. So I think that vulnerability aspect is so ubiquitous in all mediums. Like we're so attracted to it.
Yeah. And if you like, I heard, well, just like talking to different bloggers who maybe hadn't seen themselves in the media space, like growing up, because they weren't the typical,
Right.
model traveler look. Um, like hearing their perspective of, I didn't see myself traveling, so I didn't even really know this was something that was possible for me. I never thought of that. So, I feel like I did see myself luckily in media. So I,
Yeah.
felt like traveling was something I could do. But, hearing them say that, I'm like, wow, that makes so much sense though. Like,
Yeah.
and I feel like storytelling could be a way to gap that and make everyone feel also included in all types of different things. I mean, travel, but other things as well.
Totally. No, 100%. Representation is everything. But when you represent feelings, which everybody has, no matter what our background, then you give people permission to face them, because it's kind of, I think it's really funny how a lot of people, even though we sit with ourselves all day long, still avoid a lot of the feelings that are just like bouncing around inside of them. So storytelling gives them permission to feel them.
Yeah, I love that.
Cool. Yeah.
So you mentioned to me something called Murder Your Darlings.
Yes.
What is that and how
Oh
do
my
you
God.
do it?
What is that? Yeah, murdering your darling. I love that term so much. Murdering your darlings is when you find, so like in the writing process, sometimes I will say, okay, I know I want to convey this, and I'll write 3 different sentences. And I'm like, oh, I love all of them though. But you can't put all of them in because you're just regurgitating the same thing. And when you're trying to convey a message, you only want to say things once if they really need to be said. So, murdering your darlings is killing 2 of the sentences and being okay with it. What I personally do is, and so it's just like, it's a way for you to just not get completely attached to your writing.
Mhm.
And I love nothing more than when I give someone a piece that I've worked on, either in audio or in writing, and they tear it to pieces and they show me things that I couldn't have seen before. And so murdering your darlings is all about non-attachment for the sake of the greater piece, like sacrificing a few sentences that you really love and you think are really great, but if it's for the sake of the entire thing, kill them. I don't technically kill them. I just kind of like lock them up somewhere else. I have like lists of notes that I never delete because it's like if I really am into this sentence, it just hasn't found its place yet. And I'll
Mhm.
go back if I'm writing maybe like around the same area and I'll be like, "Oh, I love this sentence." Like I have so many notes on and sentences that I've kept on Evernote for whatever reason. That is the app that works best for me, and I'll kind of like scroll through them from like, oh yeah, I wrote a sentence. So yeah, it's Murder Your Darlings.
I'm curious. I'm thinking of like, okay, like murdering sentences, but what about entire pieces? Like, do you find sometimes that you spend hours working on like a whole podcast script or
Yeah,
blog post, whatever it is, and then you're like,
kill it.
this doesn't work, and you just get rid of it?
Yeah, totally. But I think that I did that. I did that the other day where I was like really stuck in a podcast script that for an episode that's coming out tomorrow. And what I wrote on Friday was so bad. It was so And I knew it, but I think that I needed to just kind of have a morning of word vomiting and getting it out in order to have the epiphany that I had Sunday morning. So what happened was like Friday, I felt super blocked. And I think it was because I was writing about a story when I was in my youth, in my teens. And it took me so long to just get back to that emotionally and remember all the details that the first like 2 hours were just me like clicking along and like just trying to get back there. But then on Saturday, I gave myself a break. I don't do work on Saturdays. And that's so important, at least for my
good
process.
Policy.
It's so important to give yourself breaks. And then I like talked it out with my partner a little bit. And then Sunday morning just came to me. I felt like a faucet that had been turned on and it just flew out of me. So yeah, I didn't even use anything from the piece that I wrote on Friday. And I'm so okay with that because I needed to. Sometimes depending on where you're at, you just need to like get it out of your system.
Do you feel like you probably in your head had a deadline, so you're like, okay, I'm gonna write, like, get this out. But do you feel like for your process, is it more important to sort of sometimes say, you know what, like kind of screw the deadline, like I need more time?
Yeah, totally. The episode that I'm working on right now should have come out today, and I'm editing the whole thing right now. But by giving myself a little bit more time, I found so many more just insights and sentences that need to be there. And I am a big component of I'd rather it be spectacular and worth the wait than for me to put something like totally half-assed out. Like that would be so embarrassing. So as long as you don't have like people really waiting on you, then yeah, give yourself another day if you need it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there is this idea, I guess, or misconception, I would say, in the blogging and creator world that it's like quantity, 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 when really like there's some creators that I follow that publish like once a month, but they're so good when they do that they get so much traction because everyone's like waiting for it because it's just so good.
Exactly. Yeah. Quality over quantity every time.
Absolutely. So in your opinion, do you have any advice on improving your writing just on your own?
Yeah. You have to do it every day. Every day. Every day, every day, every day, every day, every day, every day. Because that's the only way that you're gonna find your voice. I mean, I look back at stuff that I wrote maybe a year or two ago, and I'm like, it is so different now. And because it's almost like a workout routine. It is a muscle that you have to work at every single day. But now I know how to go into like, what is it, sixth gear, like this crazy fast gear that just like gets me into it because I do it every single day with the exception of Saturdays. But the other thing that I would do is you have to read a lot of other literature. And so I have a lot of people that I read where it's like, I love their voice. I love what they're doing here, that I feel very inspired by. And that again comes with reading and podcasting and like stand-up storytelling, is depending on which mode I'm writing in, I will like try to consume and like keep tabs on the people that I really love their work, or I find that my work is very similar to theirs. And yeah, you have to consume a lot because you just have to see what, like, you have to be able to take the temperature too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you feel like with that, have you or maybe other people ever gotten into the sort of like comparison sort of mindset where you're like following for inspiration, but then you're sort of like, maybe they achieve something or whatever, that you get into that mindset? Or do you have a strategy that kind of keeps you from going there?
Oh, that's such a good question. I feel like when I was younger, like doubt weighed really heavy on on my podcasting process, because I was like, oh, like all this audio quality isn't great. I don't really know what I'm doing. But I don't know, the more that you practice it and just, I don't know if it's pride or just feeling more comfortable, but I don't know. I feel like doubt doesn't bother, it like kind of went away. Like it doesn't bother me anymore. And I think that's because I feel so like I know what my voice is, and I know how my voice stands in the chorus of other people who are doing very similar things. And I mean, like when it comes to the comparison thing, I think that I will sometimes dip into like, oh my God, I wish I got a book deal, you know, or like, oh my God, I want a Netflix special. And that definitely happens. But I also know that everyone that I admire was once in my position. And I need to go through what I'm going through in order to get the book deal, in order to get the Netflix special. So I just think of it more as part of the process. And it, if anything, it fuels me more because it's like, I'm going to get it. You know, I'm not going to stay here. So, yeah.
So it's like, instead of being almost like, you know, say jealous or comparing, it's like taking that and saying, you know what, it's going to be a goal, like put it on the vision board.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So I know from being friends with you that you have a very specific process for getting your creative juices flowing. You've kind of touched on it a bit, but can you share a bit more about what this process is, what it looks like, and why it works?
Yeah, totally. So I think when it comes to creativity, like we said earlier, she is a wild wind that is very hard to domesticate. But I guess you don't domesticate wind, so I'll work on that sentence. But the editing process begins. So, but I have found that there are certain times where I am more creative than others. And so I personally have found that I am my most creative in the morning. No ifs, ands, or buts. And so what I do is I've cultivated, I like mama bear my time. And I have found like a series of things that help me get into a state of flow, which is like when you're kind of at your peak creativity. And so that includes like the first thing I do is I wake up and I exercise. For me, running is like the best way to like click myself into this writing mode. Lifting and yoga like doesn't do it the same way. So on the days I run, I definitely have like bigger writing projects. Then I meditate, shower, make breakfast, and then I do morning pages. And morning pages is just like a very cathartic, like write all your thoughts, all your frustrations, like, oh, what was that weird dream I had last night? You know, maybe you could write like a little to-do list, just get all of the gunk out of your brain. And it just like, I don't know, it's like stretching. It just like warms you up to get into the writing process. And a lot of times like my notes will start with like, this is all my feelings. And then it just naturally goes into, well, this is the piece that I have to write about today. And then I start getting all my like clunky notes out on that. And then I get into like full gear. So I would say the number one most important thing about this entire process is that I don't talk to anyone. I don't talk to anyone. I don't check my phone. I don't check email. I don't talk to the people that I live with. How diva is that? Extremely. But so I'm like, it's worth it. I don't care. Unfortunately, everybody, with the exception of my father, is really, really cool with it. Is really like, oh my God, totally. We get it. That's your, you know, weirdo artistic thing. So there is something about conserving that energy and giving it only to myself that makes my writing superb. Because I wake up with enough bees in my brain. Like I don't need more thoughts from the outside world to like interrupt that. So yeah, I don't talk to humans until noon. Ideally one every day.
And that is because like by talking to other people, it just, like you're saying, it kind of distracts you or fills you with more things that you just like don't need to be distracted by.
Exactly. I cannot explain this phenomenon, Jesse, but I literally feel my brain like shift. Like I'm in this like beautiful tunnel and I want to stay in this tunnel of like of my thoughts and feelings and writerly creativity. And the moment I hear someone else's voice, it just shifts into like socializing, and I lose it, and I'm like, I can't get it back, So yeah, I'm a
No,
diva, but I don't care.
that makes sense. I mean, mine's like, I kind of feel that a little bit different, but like people will say, "Oh, do you want to grab a coffee around lunchtime?" And I'm like, no, like once I'm like in that mode, I can't go back to like getting things done. It just doesn't, like if I have, say, a tour, like I lead my photo tours at like noon, I have to just give myself kind of simple things for the rest of the day, because any big projects, like my creativity is just sort of like gone for that day.
Yeah.
And then I need to save it for a day when I'm like you, I'm a morning person. Like around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, I definitely start to be like, okay, need to like do like some simple
Yeah.
edit or something like that. But
Yep. Same.
I totally feel you on the like people who can go get lunch with somebody and then go work again. I'm like, my brain is just can't get back into that mode.
1,000%. Absolutely. I kind of like, in an ideal day, I wouldn't really talk to somebody until like maybe 4. And around like 3, 4, I'll get all of those menial tasks done. But once I've started talking, I won't stop. This is clear evidence of it, But fortunately, I only have to edit a podcast together after this, so I can like get back into that pretty quickly. But I will say there is a weird caveat, and I think it goes back to our like the nighttime creativity thing. I work on my live storytelling at night because I am more social and I want to be like more physical, more animated. And there's something about, again, being a little sleepy that makes me a better joke writer. I don't know what it is, but I have found that I've written better jokes at night. I don't know. When I'm talking to myself in a mirror with my hairbrush, and like practicing a story.
Oh my gosh, I would love to. You should make a video of your creative process with that part, like the hairbrush.
So funny. I low-key love that. I might do that as like a
part of your reel or something. Just like, yeah, I love that.
That's so funny. I know I need to put a reel together. Make a note of that. Yeah.
So going, further with the process thing, because I feel like you have such interesting processes that I think many people may not have thought of. Do you have any advice for people for when they kind of get stuck in that, uncreative rut, or they feel that writer's block coming on? What strategies or tips would you give someone like that?
Totally. Well, a lot of the times I find that if I am struggling with a sentence and I want to work on it on the world of Adrian's endless contradictions, the way that I feel, I'm actually a creative extrovert. So although I need deep introversion to like work through a larger piece, or like I really need to talk stuff out with people. So I have a handful of people that I will talk to. And once I'm talking it out, somehow like my brain, like synapses shoot different ways and I can kind of see it better. And I have people in my life who know my voice and I respect their opinion, and they're not going to offend me if they're like, that's a dumb idea. They don't say it like that. They know I'm sensitive. But they know how to give me like they know how to give like very good feedback in a way that is productive, instead of just like tearing you down for the sake of being, mightier than thou. So I would say that those are two, and then it just takes space from it, because sometimes you need to let a piece breathe, and you need to know when to just like step away and think about something else. And then like, that's kind of what I did on Friday, was I was like, I can't do this anymore. I gave myself Saturday, and then I woke up on Sunday and I immediately, like, I rolled out, I started hearing it in my sleep, and I rolled out and was like, I need to write all of this down. It just like came out of me. So that's also just like the importance of breaks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like too, there's this idea of kind of like only creating from a space of forget like the terminology, but when you're feeling good, setting like the point of attraction, I'll say.
Ooh.
And it reminds me of that, of like when you're, I've been there too when I'm creating whatever it is. Could be a blog post, could be a sales page, like whatever I'm creating. But I'm just like tired, or I'm like kind of like squeezing it out. Like I'm just like, ugh. But then I'm like, okay, this is going to not be great. Like when it's done. So like put it away,
Yep.
go to sleep, look at it tomorrow when you're feeling fresh. And it's just, not only are you going to enjoy doing it more, but the people that see it are going to see that you enjoyed it more. You felt that flow or whatever, however you want to say it. But
yeah,
when you're feeling like free and flowy and happy, that comes out on what you create versus like, gotta get this done. Oh, I'm so stressed. Oh, I hate this. I'm so tired, whatever. Just put it away and come back to it. Yeah.
Yep. I agree 10,000%.
And I think too, especially for bloggers, I mean, obviously sometimes there are true deadlines, but even then, I mean, depending what the story is, sometimes you could talk to an editor or whoever you're working for or with and say, hey, can I have another day? But
yeah,
I notice I do this to myself. You set these almost like they're not real deadlines. Like it's good to give yourself deadlines, I think. But at the end of the day, is giving yourself an extra day going to ruin anything? Like probably not.
Right.
So it's like, give yourself realistic deadlines and then also realize like if it will be something that comes out better with a little extension, don't feel bad about giving yourself that extension.
100%. I agree completely.
And then what is your strategy for taking stories that you might share on a blog post or a podcast episode where you have a lot of, say, space and time to create them? You have a whole page or a whole episode, and then paring them down for social media, but still being able to, tell a story.
Yeah. I think that when it comes to the social media aspect, I whittle it down into the like 5 storytelling steps. So, like what's the information, what's the inciting incident, rising action, climax, falling action, resolution. So kind of keeping it in that and just having 1 to 2 sentences per is a really easy way. And I'll just go through my script and just like select what works. And I will like adjust my voice a little bit or I'll rewrite something, but really just sticking to that structure is what works for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes I feel like too, maybe not on Instagram, but like say Twitter, I like that you can sort of like tease it, or like Facebook even like tease it a little bit. I feel like on Instagram, people do like more of like the fuller story.
Totally.
But I feel like I honestly love Twitter. It's like you could just grab like sort of a pull quote and then link and like get people excited a little bit.
Right. Twitter is like the Wild West to me. I'm like, it's too much. I can handle like 1 social media at a time, and Instagram's way prettier to look at.
Yeah.
But I get that. Yeah.
It's funny. I feel like I like it because of that. Because I'm like, I'll take like an ugly photo and I'll think a funny thought and I'm like, Twitter. But then like Instagram, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to sit with this for an hour and come up with like the perfect caption and edit the picture. So I feel like, I mean, the feed comes out better and all that stuff. But I feel like Twitter is just like, it makes me laugh. Like I just feel like it's pure fun. I love it.
Yeah. I guess there's less. Yeah. Cause on Instagram, it's really, you're being judged on how attractive this photo is. So I think Twitter has less inhibitions.
I mean, it's also like Twitter, you can do like, 10, 20 tweets. Like you could just do so many and it's quick and short. Whereas like Instagram, it's like, it's planned out. Like I think of my feed as a magazine, really. And I guess each post is a story. And basically got an issue right there, but it's just a lot more planning, I feel like. But I mean, still, I think both are, beneficial in their own way.
Yeah, totally. They both serve very different audiences.
Mm-hmm. So I have one more question for you. Like storytelling is also a great technique when it comes to selling. Mm-hmm. For instance, when a blogger might be promoting a product they've created or the product of an affiliate partner. So do you have any advice for bloggers or anyone who wants to pair storytelling with selling effectively?
Yeah, definitely. I would say, again, okay, this is a little different. It is still very feelings based and emotionally based, but only the resolution is the resolution is their product. So what good salespeople do is they identify their audience and they're like, what are your pain points? And then they play into those pain points like, aren't you so tired of doing X, Y, and Z? And wouldn't it be great if you had X, Y, and Z? And oh, my product is the thing that solves that. So they are kind of telling a story in it as well. And I mean, like, we've all seen commercials that have brought us to tears, you know, like that is some power. You put on a Sarah McLachlan song and I'm weeping, you know? So yeah, I think that like good salespeople are actually just storytellers. They're just selling a product at the end of it. So, and I've even definitely been hooked into like giving somebody my email because they've identified my personal pain points so well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really knowing the pain points of your audience and then making your product so good that they can't say no to it.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like that just brought to mind two things. I personally sales emails, and I'll usually kind of think about like a benefit of a product and then create a story around, like a personal story of how this strategy or this solution has helped me. So sort of like a before and after story. But I was just thinking of, I believe it's HP that has all the commercials that really do kind of bring you to tears.
Yeah.
And I feel like what they do is they sort of look at the project or wow, like you have this, you know, I can't remember the commercial. I just remember crying with the photos of the grandparents. It's like,
there's one Google, I can't remember if it's Google like phone or maybe just for Google Maps, but it's like, I'll look it up and send it to you and you can like have everybody watch it. But it's of this woman trying to reconnect her grandfather to his childhood friend in India. And like they live in Jersey and it's just like her going through her phone, like booking flights and checking weather and time zones and like all that stuff. But at the end, they're like reunited, and it's so powerful. It's like, why am my lashes are falling off? Like, this is so powerful, you know? Yeah, it's just storytelling.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, wow, this was such amazing information. Now I basically want to not talk to anyone until 3 p.m. That sounds amazing. It sounds amazing anyway, but for the creative process, you know.
Yeah, that's your excuse.
Exactly. So just to end, can you let everyone know where they can find you? And once I, you know, turn this into a podcast, I'll make sure to link all of Adrienne's amazing, you know, episodes and different things that she does in the show notes. And I'll also put links in the YouTube videos. Yeah, I was on her last one.
Yeah.
And then I'll also put her links in the YouTube video when it republishes, but just share verbally for now where people can find you. Well,
when we were allowed to go outside, I would do weekly shows around the city. So, you know, I'm kind of dabbling with the online storytelling comedy shows. I don't think that I love it, but I will definitely keep people posted. You can see them on my Instagram, adrienne.bain, for any upcoming online shows that I'm doing. But the big one is my podcast. So my podcast is Strangers Abroad. And you can download that on Stitcher, iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And it's the same website, Strangers Abroad Podcast. And then my Instagram is also Strangers Abroad Podcast, where you can follow me. And yeah, both the website and Instagram have like very different content that are, you know, that overlaps. So, but it's all to do for the storytelling.
Amazing. And I can, you know, concur. Like I said before, I love like your ability to tell stories. So I'm so glad you took the time to share all your amazing wisdom with us.
This was so much fun.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Jessie. You have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.